After Season 1, I waited about a week or two before starting the second season. I wanted to let the events of Season 1 sink in and build up some anticipation. After that time, I dived right into Season 2 to find a very shocking surprise. As I mentioned before, it was years since I had seen either Digimon or Pokemon. When I saw Vmon digivolve into Flamedramon for the first time, I seriously thought he was a Pokemon up until that point. Then, I started to think back a little bit. There were a few times I would tune in the Digimon if I was awake at about 7 o'clock. I did see 1 or 2 episodes of Season 2, but was completely lost and then gave up on the show after that. The series opens with a new baddie of the digital world, known only as the Digimon Emperor. All we know about him is that he is human and has a legion of dark rings. Now the dark rings are very similar to the black gears of Season 1, but this time, whoever is wearing one becomes a slave to the Emperor. A great number of his rings are taking over when Gautomon just barely escapes one. Apparently her tail ring gives her power to deflect them. Also, she has the power to hypnotize foes to sleep in this season. It's a good thing she didn't have this power when she was working for Myotismon. Anyway, as Agumon tries to escape, he calls out for Tai. Somehow, he is able to hear this call. This is left to simmer on the back burner as we are introduced to the new Digidestined. As you can tell from their big name bubbles, TK has to get to school. Along the way, we meet 2 others that live in the same building, Yoli and Cody. Once they get there, we are given our token gogglehead known as Davis, who for all intensive purposes is the discount Tai. He loves soccer, wears goggles, and is probably the bravest of the group. We then go into class, where we find that Davis has a huge crush on Kari. As such, he feels threatened when TK starts reminiscing about the good old days. Back in the digital world, we find a beat-up Agumon being rescued by Tai. This is probably the first major plot hole of this season. Throughout the series, we see that the old Digidestined are not able to get to the digital world because their Digivices aren't powerful enough. Rather, they have to rely on the new breed of Digidestined to open the gate for them. It would appear that Agumon could not digivolve due to the Digimon Emperor's control. Just barely escaping, Tai is able to send out an SOS. Yoli is the recipient of this message and thinks it's merely a game. However, due to her intelligence, we'll get to that later, she recognizes that this message was sent by Kari's older brother, Tai, and gives the message to her. With the message in hand, the gang heads to the computer lab, with Izzy making a comeback for help. Yoli is drawn away to help fix Cody's home computer. Just then, Tai finds a mysterious egg embedded with the crest of courage. In lifting it, 3 glowing orbs fly out to reveal 3 Digivices. With this, Davis joins the group to the digital world. Unfortunately, Izzy is unable to make it, since entering the digital world has caused some attention, and he needs to stay behind to try to explain it all. In the digital world, the gang is able to meet up with Tai, which also has Gautomon and Patamon with them. This emotion is cut short to explain the present situation. I want to note that it's established here in the first episode that Gautomon has lost her tail ring. However, they don't look for it until much later in the series. I feel like that's kind of a plot hole, but not a major one. Back at the weird egg again, everyone tries reenacting Sword in the Stone by picking it up. Instead of Arthur, we find Davis is able to pick up the egg. In taking it, Davis summons his Digimon, Vmon. He's able to tell Davis how to use the egg to digivolve him into Flamedramon. With this new power, Davis is able to defeat one of the Emperor's henchmen. See what I did there? During the ordeal, Davis's goggles get busted, and so Tai hands him his. Kind of a symbolic passing of the torch, I guess. We find that the Digimon Emperor can't come out at nighttime, so the Digidestined are free to go back to the real world, only to crash on top of a very curious Yoli and Cody. The next episode plays out very similar, with Yoli and Cody meeting their Digimons, Hawkmon and Armadillomon, respectively. I've made an allusion to this before, but I'll bring it up as a talking point here. Cody gets the Digi-Egg of Knowledge, I guess it flips between knowledge and intelligence, while Yoli gets the Digi-Egg of Love. Personally, I feel it would have made more sense for it to be the other way around. Just going off the first 2 episodes, we see that Yoli, like Izzy, knows her way around a computer, as well as knowing complex math equations. With Cody, we see that he is considerate enough, or in love with his family enough, to inform them he will be running late. In later episodes, it seems these traits are still here, with Yoli coming up with some smart ideas to help their missions, and we see Cody has a love for all Digimon, even the evil ones. While the English dub does try to convince the audience that this is right, I'm not buying it. What's quite unique about this series is that usually the Digimon and the Digidestined are the same gender. Here we see Yoli hooked up with Hawkmon, which is more of a male persona. I have a feeling this was supposed to make the relationship between the two a little more diverse, but it plays out like all the other Digidestined's Digimon. While Yoli and Cody are meeting their Digimon, we see that Davis has been captured with the Digimon Emperor about to enslave Vmon. I thought some of the baddies in Season 1 were bad, but it seems like the Emperor is not only smart, but sadistic. Not only does he capture and torture Digimon for his own amusement, but he just loves toying with the Digidestined as well, and he's just a really well-written villain. It's just amazing. Something I wish Team Rocket could do. Wink. Davis is saved just in the nick of time. The Emperor's henchmen are brought back to normal, and another day is saved. Before ending the episode, we see the in-training forms of all the new Digidestined's Digimon. With the other Digidestined able to armor Digivolve, Gatomon and Patamon are pretty much powerless. However, even they find Digi-Eggs of their own and are able to armor Digivolve. This causes TK's and Kari's Digivice to morph into the next generation ones. Not really sure why, it's kind of explained a little bit, but not really that well. We also find that in addition to Dark Rings brainwashing the Digimon, the Digimon Emperor is also building control spires, which upon retrospect, should have been called control obelisks. They act as antennae broadcasting the mind control waves into the Dark Rings. What's interesting is how the Digimon Emperor uses this power. Sure, he uses them for slave labor as well as bodyguards, but he also uses them to make Digimon fight for his own amusement. The Digidestined come up with the idea of trying to take out the Emperor in the real world, where he is the most vulnerable. It is hinted at that the Emperor is Ken Ichijoji, not Ichijuji like Yoli always says.
Ken Ichijuji, Ichijuji, Ken and Yoli, Ichijuji.
He is a super genius who is also a really good soccer player. One day, Davis faces against him in a rather tense soccer match. While scoring the final goal, Ken's ankle receives a pretty deep cut. The game is won by Ken's team, but due to the idea that he was tricked by a lowly insect such as Davis really annoys him. Back in the digital world, there is only one control spire left. While reluctant, the Digidestined go for it. Before they even get there, the ground swallows them whole, but Davis and Vmon are perfectly safe. As they walk further, we see that the others have been tied up by the Digimon Emperor when a deep rumbling happens. A Digimon known as Deltamon comes forward. The Emperor then gives Davis a saw-like game. Since Deltamon has 3 heads and there are 4 Digidestined, who will be the one to live? Can we just take a second to acknowledge this moral dilemma? What other kids show would have anything this thought-provoking? Davis can't decide, and the Emperor gives the order to eat them all. Just then, it is revealed that it was all an illusion to mess with Davis. After a good fight between Davis and the Emperor, Davis notices a deep cut on his ankle. The big reveal is made that the Digimon Emperor is Kenichi Joji. I feel this reveal would have been more interesting if the audience wasn't already told this through other episodes, but it's still pretty good. The the Digimon Emperor takes over Agumon's domain, and not only does that, but slaps one of his dark rings on him and attempts to digivolve him. Much like Season 1, this digivolution process is corrupted, and we get Skull Greymon once again. In this state, Skull Greymon is out of control. The Emperor then does multiple experiments on Agumon in order to gain control of him. Just as the Emperor has come into a breakthrough, Wormmon releases Agumon. In the English dub, it's because he wants to be experimented on instead. I'd like to think in the original, Wormmon thinks he's suffered enough and just lets him go out of sheer pity. This freedom is short-lived when Ken gives Agumon the Dark Spiral. That's the breakthrough I was talking about. With this, he can get Agumon to digivolve into the ultimate form. Thankfully not Mega, because that would have been near impossible to defeat. I wonder if that was the inspiration for Black... anyways, it's up to the Digidestined to take down Agumon. This is a great moment I love here.
So, I don't really know how to say this.
Let me handle this, Ty. Everyone, the next time you see Agumon, trash him, understand? I can't hear you!
Okay! Defeat Agumon! I can't believe those words actually came out of my mouth.
The battle for Metal Greymon, who actually is Grey in this one, take that Season 6, is intense, with Patamon seemingly being the next victim. I'm just imagining how powerful the Emperor would have been if he not only had Metal Greymon, but Magna Angemon. During this fight, Davis learns about the importance of friendship, which is far less cheesy than how I'm describing it here. This gives Davis the Digi-Egg of Friendship, and digivolves Vmon into Reitramon. This is enough to take out the Dark Spiral and return Agumon back to normal. And if you're curious about the Digimon movie, this is when you can start watching it now. You may remember how I mentioned a plot hole from earlier. Here, I want to take a note of the biggest plot hole of the entire season. Kari is summoned to another dimension. I think it could be the digital world, but none of this is really explained. She is beckoned by creatures that have been made slaves by the Digimon Emperor. She is successful in freeing them. It then turns out that these creatures weren't Digimon at all, but some sort of weird apparition. It turns out they really want Kari to be their queen and help overthrow their undersea master. For all intensive purposes, it's just Cthulhu. I have also heard that there are other references to H.P. Lovecraft in this episode, but I can't read Japanese. My first thought was, oh, maybe this next episode was skipped because it was too dark or too intense or something. Then my second thought was, wait a minute, they've done far worse stuff than whatever that episode would have been. It couldn't have been a cut episode. I learned that the dub did alter the footage a little bit. By the way, did you know Puppetmon actually carried a gun in some of the episodes? But nowhere was there an episode ever completely cut out entirely. In reality, there were two main writers of the series. I know their names are in Japanese, and I don't accidentally want to butcher them, so I'll just keep it as the two main writers. One wanted to have a fun, campy adventure, and the other wanted to have a dark, gritty storyline. Since they couldn't agree, this arc was completely dropped, which is a pity. I think it would have been pretty epic, even if it does kind of deviate from the Emperor's storyline a little bit. A lot of ground is lost and gained in the digital world by the Digimon Emperor, but to a neutral effect. During this time, we find two more Digi-Eggs, Yoli getting the Digi-Egg of Sincerity because she's a girl, and Cody getting the Crest of Reliability because he needs Joe's help to get it. I know I could rationalize it a bit better than that, but personally, I feel TK should have gotten Reliability and Kari Sincerity. Oh well. At least we get Sherrymon, probably my favorite of the new brand of Digidestined, outside of Stingbon. We'll get to that later though. It's also fun to note Submarimon. I find it funny that this is a Digimon that Cody can drive. That's weird, but oddly useful. Anyways, it's the 4-year anniversary since my Otismon was spotted at the TV station. At this time, an apparition appears to be taking control. While visiting the sacred site, the Digidestined quickly investigate these strange hauntings. The apparition materializes to show Wizardmon. He gives a prophecy. The golden radiance will defeat the dark one. However, do not be deceived, for there is a greater evil than him. Kindness will be an asset, but not enough to take out this evil. I'm paraphrasing, as well as trying my best Wizardmon impression. The Digidestined then go back to the plan of beating the Emperor in the real world, where he is most vulnerable. Just as they are about to confront Ken, several police cars swarm the building. According to the news, Ken ran away from home, but the Digidestined know the real truth. He has gone to the digital world for complete domination. The Digidestined try their best to keep order, but Ken has the upper hand. Then, advantage switches. Cody and Tentamon find the Emperor's base. The only problem is, they can only assault it for a few hours before they have to go home. Then, an idea sparks. The Digidestined will go camping. In reality, Matt, Ty, and Izzy will be camping while the Digidestined go take on the Emperor. On day 1, Yoli is out to prove herself as an asset to the team, going into dangerous territory first without regard to her well-being or Hawkmon's. While investigating where the base used to be, Hawkmon is hit with a direct blast from Dokukumon. Try saying that 5 times fast. Feeling sorry for her rash behavior, she pleads that the others leave her while they search for the base. All but Kari go. While recuperating, they see a strange flying object. This turns out to be the Digimon Emperor's secret base. They follow the base to what's known as the Dark Whirlpool. It is essentially the essence of pure evil in the digital world. The Emperor is trying to extract it for one of his little projects. He is unsuccessful since the squadron of Nekanorimon which he sent after it are pretty much swallowed up whole. While this is going on, Cody is able to sneak inside the base and free several of the prisoners within. TK shortly follows, just in time to see the figure that haunts his nightmares, Devimon. He still holds a bit of a grudge from the first time he defeated Angemon in Season 1. Cody sees his outburst and is equally disturbed. Seeing that the Nekanorimon were not able to get the essence of evil, Ken decides to go for himself, when all of a sudden, a voice starts speaking to him.
Are you sure? Huh? Do you really believe you can control the powers of darkness?
All right, who are you?
I am here to warn you. Beware the darkness.
He quickly ignores it for now, but it slowly begins to torment him as time goes on. By this time, the base is fully exposed, and the rest of the Digidestined come in for a great battle. With this essence of evil, Ken's project is released, a creation known as Chimera-mon, which, interestingly enough, was another ultimate form for Greymon in the card game, which came out, I believe, a year before this season, give or take a little bit. While this beast may look unorganized, it's a fusion of great traits from many different Digimon. While in the base, TK confronts Ken in a simple yet poignant battle. This is also the first time Ken starts to question himself as the perfect being that he always thought he was. While this is going on, Kari and Yoli draw Chimera-mon's fire while the others rescue the prisoners. They manage to make their escape without a single casualty. It's a kid's show, I guess that's obvious. Although they do tackle some pretty serious... anyway, with Chimera-mon in hand, no one can oppose the Digimon Emperor, and control spires are soon everywhere. A plan then comes to mind. An oil pipeline runs in the direct path of the base. Gabumon, Agumon, and Tentamon join together to douse the base in oil and then set it on fire. You gotta love how this makes no sense, but at the same time it kinda does. This show is weird. In the confusion, the Digidestined are quickly inside. At the entrance is a swarm of Bakumon, which are quickly overpowered. Further in, they meet up with Chimera-mon once again. During the battle, all the Digimon except for Gatomon and Patamon go to their in-training forms. The Emperor recognizes them from the famous soccer game. He orders Chimera-mon to stop while he sorts out what he's thinking right now. During this time, Davis goes after the engine to find Wormmon. Seeing that he wants Ken back, he helps them find the power source, a corrupted Digi-Egg, which I would assume would have been Ken's if he hadn't turned to evil? Davis instead takes the egg and releases the Golden Radiance, which not only rejuvenates all the other Digimon, but digivolves Vmon into Magnamon. As the voice gets more intense, Ken loses control over Chimera-mon. He then trashes the base in order to destroy Magnamon. Outside, the battle continues, and it would seem that Magnamon is going to lose. One more time, Wormmon tries to appeal to Ken, but this is ultimately useless. With his life force, he gives all his power to Magnamon, as well as the ability to take out Chimera-mon once and for all. Ken, being defeated, states that the Digidestined must have cheated and will reset the entire digital world, one where he will win the game once and for all. Then, the truth comes out. This was not a game. All the creatures Ken had been experimenting on and torturing were real, living creatures. Just then, he turns to Wormmon, just barely breathing. He takes solace in the fact that he got Ken to turn back into his good-natured self, only to take his last breath and disappear off into oblivion. This turns out to be too much for Ken, since he first went into the digital world to escape the death of his older brother. Feeling completely alone in a world that hates him, he returns to the one place he may find love. Home. I love this storyline. This is probably one of the few times where I genuinely feel sorry for the main villain. It paints him as a victim who didn't even know any better. I guess I wasn't the only one who liked this idea, because it came back again in Digimon Fusion. One of the characters is led to believe that the digital world is only a game as well, where the only way to win is to help conquer more territory. All in good time, though. I'll cover the mess of Fusion later. With the Digimon Emperor out of the picture, the Digidestined come in to try to fix up the mess. During this time, a strange woman has appeared and has been making Digimon out of old control spires. To combat this, the new breed of Digidestined slowly start digivolving their Digimon. Ken, however, is still on the sidelines, helping out the Digidestined with the digivolved Wormmon known as Stingmon. One day they get a message from Izzy, stating that the Emperor's old base has started to melt down. On top of this, the mysterious woman has made a powerful Digimon to ensure the meltdown kills them all. Ken wants to stop this mess on his own, as a way to atone his sins. But Davis talks reason, saying destroying all the control spires and fixing the base is impossible alone. Just then, a marvelous thing happens. Vmon and Stingmon DNA digivolve to create Paildramon. Fixing the base and taking out this new Digimon are made possible. Seeing the power this woman gets from the control spires, the goal now becomes destroying as many as possible. This is something that shifts a lot during this part of the season. Later on, this woman sends a message to all the Digidestined to meet her at the Giga House. This is obviously a trap, but the prize of taking down this woman is worth it. As a way to soften the blow, the group is split into two. Davis, Ken, and Cody go inside, while the rest stay outside in case backup is required. This plan fails since the woman has sent Flymon to attack the outside and draw them in. The other team fares no better with the army of Roachmon. After intense battling, Ken's team makes it to this woman who is playing a flute. It appears this is her power to control all insect-type Digimon in the house, including Stingmon and Digmon. A theory is formed by an old fable that I've never heard of.
Hey, are you guys familiar with the story of the moth and the bat?
Of course I remember.
The moth heard the sound the bat made and used it to escape. It was a trick of some kind.
It's up to Yoli and her intelligence to distort the sound of the flute and make it so the insects no longer attack. Beaten at the game, this woman reveals her true self, a spider-like Digimon called Arukenimon. With a cunning plan, she is nearly defeated when a new Digimon approaches, known as Mummymon. I've mentioned multiple times that the lines of Digimon and Pokemon have been blurred at points in my memory. Up until this season, I thought the personality and voices of Jesse and James were those of Arukenimon and Mummymon, which, upon retrospect, would have been amazing. The idea of the Pokemon and human hybrid going after Ash with superpowers and guns. Now that's the show I'd like to watch. Anyway, the dynamic of the two is hammered out in the next episode. We find that Arukenimon is very cruel and very abusive to Mummymon, and yet he still loves her, even almost enjoying the pain. A new plan is formed. Arukenimon makes a mega-level Digimon, known as Black War Greymon. Finally, I can talk about this character. After obliterating the Digidestin with a "Goodbye, Tien," he's ordered to follow Arukenimon and Mummymon. However, he says no, and flies off in search of a greater opponent. The thing that makes Black War Greymon so interesting as a character is the idea that he was created as a tool for destruction. Now that his purpose has been served, he looks for a reason to exist. The only one he can think of is to fight and be killed by a stronger opponent. During this time, he has been doing a lot of introspective, wondering about the mortality of life, whether it's better to kill or to let live. Through the soul-searching, we have the one scene that has cemented Agumon as being my favorite Digimon, in terms of personality. In terms of look, Burning Greymon. Anyway, I have always had a soft spot for characters that aren't too bright, but because they are dim, they are able to answer simple questions smart characters overthink. This is what this moment is. War Greymon is overthinking this idea of life and death, and the idea of actually caring about something. Agumon has a simple idea. Let them be friends. If it doesn't work, then Black War Greymon will choose the path of death and destruction. If it does work, he chooses the path of life and understanding. As it seems like Black War Greymon is choosing the latter, he is forced to destroy the Destiny Stones. Basically, the stones are pillars of stability in the digital world. Destroy all of them, and barriers between worlds collide. Several stones are destroyed, when in one of them, a mysterious being appears. According to Black War Greymon, this is the foe he has been searching for. This reinvigorates the quest to destroy them all. On another, the power of the stone gives Patamon the ability to digivolve to Magna Angemon, but this is still not powerful enough to take on Black War Greymon. With another stone, Cody is given the information that Agumon heard from Black War Greymon. According to Agumon, he must have a heart. No other creature would ask such soul-searching questions. This makes protecting the stone harder for Cody, since he doesn't want to kill a being with a heart. He leaves Black War Greymon an ultimatum. If he wants to destroy the stone, he must destroy Cody first. After some thinking, he goes right for Cody, but is saved just in time. There is only one stone left, and this is shown in the worst episode of the season, if not the entire series. There are several things going against this episode. The first is the digivolving sequences, which take up much longer than any standard one should. On top of that, the Digidestined, Arukenimon, and Mummymon seem uninterested in the quest for the Destiny Stones, but just want really good soup, which is being made by Digitamamon for some reason. I guess they opened another restaurant? This is all while Black War Greymon is actually understanding the story up to this point and still going after the Destiny Stones. The stone is found in a soup spring. The last annoyance of this episode is a petty one. In the episode, Cody and TK finally are able to DNA Digivolved. This Digimon's name is Shakuyamon. Then, after 1 minute later, the announcer says it like this.
Will Shakuman be able to defeat Black War Greymon?
At least be consistent, that's all I ask! In the next episode, stuff actually happens, even if most of it is exposition. Davis comes up with the idea of moving the stone with the Digivices. This causes the Digimon from earlier to appear. He is a Zulogmon, one of the 4 sovereign Digimon, essentially gods of the digital world. He is able to explain the use of the Destiny Stones, and starts remaking new ones. He also talks some sense in the Black War Greymon about wanting to be destroyed, basically saying that all life has meaning. The circumstances of how that life was created makes no difference. Now, if this were Pokemon the movie, this would be the part where Black War Greymon understands fighting is bad and works for peace in the digital world. What happens is not as straightforward. He goes off to find a meaning, even if that meaning is to be hated and loathed. The next episode starts a rather interesting story arc. If you were to condense all these together, you would have a pretty epic Christmas special. It starts simple enough, with Ken being a little embarrassed about asking the gang over for a Christmas party. However, they all agree. Before the Christmas party, though, the new Digidestined gather up all the Digimon of the Season 1 cast as the ultimate Christmas present for them. The old Digidestined stick to the beach where Matt is giving a concert. Fun little fact here. The name of the band is the Teenage Wolves. I like how they had that part stick in there with Digimon Try, which later renamed it to the Knife of Day. I think the Teenage Wolves sounds better. Before the concert, there is some tension between Sora and Tai. Now I have seen Season 1 and 2 multiple times, and I hear many say, how could Sora have fallen in love with Matt? Tai was the better fit. This was the only time in either season I ever heard of this love triangle. To my knowledge, it's nowhere else. Am I missing something here? Or is this like saying Red Wedding to a Game of Thrones fan? The concert is cut short when not only a control spire shows up, but Digimon crash the venue. The new Digidestined head down there right away to clean up the mess. After a good night's sleep, everyone wakes up to a news bulletin of these control spires appearing all over the world, followed by Rogue Digimon. I also love the, what I like to call, breaking the fifth wall joke here.
Interrupt the Power Rangers Arbor Day special for this special news bulletin.
For those that don't know, Saban, I hope I'm saying that right, who dubbed the first 2 seasons of Digimon, also dubbed Super Sentai, which you probably know better as the Power Rangers. Now, this is the part of the show which I feel could make it last forever. In addition to the Japanese Digidestined, there are groups all around the world. If you were to do only 1 season of each of these Digidestined groups, you would have 5 extra seasons, and you could even do anthologies on them like they do with the Japanese ones. Probably my favorite group would either have to be the United States kids or the group from Hong Kong. Most of the Digidestined are with Izzy, except for Davis, who is helping Ken out with the control spire problem. While this is going on, a young Jedi appears, which I can't be the only one that thinks he looks just like Obi-Wan from Episode 1 of Star Wars. He brings to them a Digicore, which gives the original Digidestined the ability to digivolve into the ultimate form, and has Paildramon digivolve to Mega with Imperial Dramon. With one shot, he is able to take out all the control spires in Japan. After some quick communication, the team splits into groups to take care of the control spire problem by flying on Imperial Dramon. This leaves the perfect opportunity for Arukenimon and Mummymon to do what they wish in Japan, which is kidnapping children. As for the Around the World segments, I'll summarize my favorite moments. Kari and Izzy have to guide the Digidestined and the Rogue Digimon into China. I love how they go through the options. The first being the blast through the Chinese army, which would not only cause an international incident, but lose countless lives for no reason. The second being diplomacy. The first, have the Digidestined explain the situation, and then the Digimon. This idea is immediately shot down, since they probably do not want to listen to anybody invading into their territory. Then, an idea strikes. They write, they come in peace on a wall in plain view. With that, the message is received, and the day is saved. Tai and TK go to Paris, where they meet TK's uncle, who has some really funny stories about his aunt. While looking around for a Digimon, they find one of the French Digidestined held captive in the Palace of Versailles. I love the idea that they have to fight in such a historic place. It's a pity there wasn't a Scottish group of Digidestined. Can you imagine all the castles they might have had to fight in? The final also hammers my point on Yoli getting the wrong crest. She runs into a language barrier with the Russian Digidestined. Quick sidetrack. With the original being only in Japanese, you think this would have happened a lot more often. In the English dub, it's a lot more believable that these countries would know enough of the language to at least get by. Anyway, Yoli is able to tell them how to attack with 3 popular food items: Peruski, borscht, and caviar. Genius. After this world tour, the Digidestined get a little break to celebrate Christmas with their families. This break is short-lived as more evil Digimon come out to play. This presents a moral dilemma for the Season 2 cast, since they have never had to kill a living Digimon before. One of these evil Digimon, Chimera-mon, corrupts Imperial Dramon by freezing him. For a challenge, he picks up a bus full of people and challenges any to take him on before he throws it. As for all the other Digimon, they say if they have been in the real world for too long and can't fight anymore. I don't know, I feel like this is just lousy writing. Haven't they been out longer and doing far more during the Myotismon saga? Before they head back to the digital world, they send all their energy to Imperial Dramon. I guess that's a common trope of this season. And he digivolves again into fighter mode. They call it a mode change, but I'd say it's about the same thing as digivolving. Very similar to the burst mode in Season 5. In this new mode, Chimera-mon is killed, and the bus is saved. Just then, a Digimon of pure evil comes forward called Daemon. I guess he's the master of the Nightmon? No, okay. He requires Ken's dark spore, which is explained to be the force that turned him into the Digimon Emperor. Unless he gives it over, all his friends and family are to suffer unspeakable torture. No sooner is he done speaking, Arukenimon comes forward saying, "Go with her, or all these children we kidnapped will never be seen again." Ken goes with Arukenimon, while Daemon swears revenge on her. I find it kind of weird how well Daemon takes this. He seems to go more after Arukenimon than Ken in this case. Wouldn't you think it'd be the other way around, since he refused Daemon to go with Arukenimon? Anyway, inside the truck full of children, Ken comes face to face with Oikawa, who has been in the shadow for a few episodes, but this time he is finally revealed here. On a side note, he's the only one person I know of that can say this phrase and make it sound so creepy.
Enjoy the holidays. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Sorry. The story is that the dark spore that Daemon wants gives whoever is possessed by it super knowledge and great sports skills, much like how Ken was at the beginning of the season. These kids came of their own free willpower to get it. As the spore is being copied from Ken to the other children, Daemon appears for one last fight. He is too powerful for not only the Digidestined to defeat, but also Oikawa's Digimon. That's Arukenimon and Mummymon, just in case. As a last-ditch effort, Ken summons up all his evil energy to banish Daemon into the dark ocean. When the Digidestined come back, they find that Oikawa has gotten away. However, all the children are back home safe where they belong. After that, the story of Oikawa is explained by Cody's grandfather. He discovers Armadillomon and immediately recognizes him as a Digimon. It appears that his father was best friends with Oikawa, and they would often see the digital world. However, the grandfather just thought this was a video game they were talking about. As the years would go on, the bond between the two would get even stronger, and they vowed to go to the digital world in person. However, those plans were cut short when Cody's father died. Being a security officer for a diplomat, he took a bullet intended for the diplomat. Since that day, Oikawa has never given up on the dream of going to the digital world, and even resents Cody's father for leaving him all alone in a world that hates him. At this point, Oikawa is hiding out in a remote cabin, waiting for the dark spores to grow. I love the dialogue here. The idea that Mummymon and Arukenimon have to see what it's like in the human world creates some fun culture shock.
Monsters! The government got to you too, didn't it?
Oh, if only Digimon were this deluded. The digital world would fall at our feet like a ripe little plum. Why do people find this cold, wet gunk pretty?
While Tai and Kari are surveying damage in the digital world, a rift has been found open. On the other side is Black War Greymon, wanting some answers from Oikawa. It would appear that through his searching, he comes to the conclusion he is not of the digital world, and wants to see where his creator is from. It is here we find that Mummymon and Arukenimon were creations of Oikawa. With this knowledge, Black War Greymon comes to the conclusion that Oikawa must be destroyed in order to restore balance to both worlds. This is when Tai and Kari come through to the rescue, and we are given a little fan service, the fight between Black War Greymon and War Greymon. And I mean fan service in the best way possible, as in, wow, this is amazing, I'd love to see this, rather than, why did they quadruple her cup size? During the fight, which has an epic chase sequence by the way, Oikawa gets away. After the fight is over, Black War Greymon is nearly killed. Again. This time though, he realizes his fighting ways have given him no answers to his questions. Again. One of the spores sprouts early in one of the children, and Oikawa takes the power of the flower power, and starts glowing. Just then, Black War Greymon comes back for one more fight. Some bitter words are lobbed between the two. When Cody's grandfather tries to appeal to Oikawa's human nature. For a moment, it seems to work. When some force possesses him, forcing him to kill the grandfather, Black War Greymon comes in and takes the blow. After this blow, the true form of the possessor is revealed, but only to Black War Greymon. With his dying body, he seals the gate to the digital world, to ensure that this great evil would never return to the digital world again. Some time passes when Oikawa gathers up all the other kids at what he believes to be a digital gate. The plan is to nab Oikawa when he finds that the gate won't open. Fate had other plans though, and another gate opens up. Worried that Black War Greymon's seal was not strong enough, the Digidestined run in after him. Inside, they find a different dimension, one where Oikawa's true form is revealed. It turns out that Myotismon was not fully killed at the end of Season 1, but rather possessed Oikawa in order to get back to the digital world and possibly regain a physical form. With the power of the Dark Spore, he can now resume a physical form. In this world, Myotismon, that's his new form now, has total control and quickly kills Arukenimon and Mummymon. With this fear in place, the Digidestined are taken under a spell, where each experience what their ideal world would look like. Yoli, wishing she was an only child so that she get more food. I love how Hawkmon sees this illusion, and he's like, really? This is what the perfect world looks like for you? Could you think of anything more original? For Kari, it's a world where Digimon and humans live together in harmony. For TK, a world where his father and mother live together with his older brother, Matt. As for Cody, I personally feel this is a cheap shot. A world where his father is not only still alive, but able to go to the digital world. Davis, however, has only the thought of destroying Myotismon, giving this illusion no effect to him. As such, he is the one to knock the others out of their illusion and join him in the fight. We find that all forms of the Digidestined's Digimon can exist simultaneously in this dimension. This leaves Myotismon nearly defeated when a crack appears. Behind it is the digital world, which, as soon as he's into the digital world, he regains his power. With the power of the dark spore and the depressed thoughts of the other kids, Myotismon sucks both worlds into darkness. Through the light of all the Digidestined and positive thoughts, Myotismon falls apart, and as of now is still defeated. He may come back, it's hard to say. With the battle won, Cody goes back to Oikawa to give him the dream of being in the digital world. Here, he is greeted by his own Digimon from so many years ago. Seeing the state of the digital world, and knowing that he doesn't have a lot of time left, he gives his life force to restore the one thing he loves the most, the digital world. Find that these were all accounts that TK has written down in a top-selling novel, 25 years from then. At this point, the digital world and the real world live together in harmony, with everyone having a Digimon partner. Tai and Agumon end up being diplomats between the real and the digital world. Though Tai has a child, it's unclear who the mother is. We also see that Matt does get Sora in the end, with Matt being an astronaut and Sora being a fashion designer. Wouldn't it have made a little more sense for Mimi? I see Sora as more of a marriage counselor myself rather than a fashion designer. Joe, despite the protest of his older brother, does become a doctor, but for Digimon instead of humans. Izzy and Mimi end up together, at least as far as I can tell, with Mimi getting a cooking show and Izzy being in charge of the digital world's infrastructure. Ari ends up being a teacher, with a father we never get to see. It's fun to note that in Season 3, her voice actress comes back to voice a teacher. However, I guess that's in a different timeline, and this is just more of a aha sort of thing to the audience. Ken and Yo-Lee are together, with Ken and Stingbon being detectives, and Yo-Lee being a housewife. I personally would have thought she would have been a better fit for Izzy, but whatever. Cody is with child as well, with an unknown mother. He is a lawyer. Davis shows up with his child, once again with an unknown mother. He is the head of a noodle cart enterprise. I guess a lot can change in 25 years. I didn't really see him as the business type. Every year or so, they get together for a reunion in the digital world, and to reminisce about the old times. The series ends with the possibility that evil could come back, but for now, a great peace is over the digital world, and will remain that way for some time. And that's Season 2. While I see Season 1 as a near masterpiece, this I feel is a little bit of a letdown. While the show has its moments, some of which surpass the original, the overall tone is inconsistent. This is in part due to the writing. There were two head writers. One wanted to go for a darker storyline, very similar to Season 3, but the other wanted to go for a more campy and lighthearted adventure, much like Season 4. While both were trying to find middle ground, there would be filler in order to get some agreement. Examples of this filler would be destroying the Control Spires and the Destiny Stones. That, I feel, is the biggest problem of Season 2, is consistency. Season 1 did a pretty good job with finding the balance, having darker ideas when needed, and having campier ideas when needed. Here, it feels more like there's two different stories which alternate between telling and not telling. The best example I can think of is The Dark Ocean. This was a story that left so many unanswered questions. Who is this undersea master? Who are these minions? Is this place even in the digital world? What does this undersea master's kingdom look like? It leaves a lot to be desired. But the campy writer took over, and we never got a chance to see any of it. All in all, I do recommend Season 2 for the continuation of the story of Season 1. It's nice to be able to see that these characters not only age, but also see them change with the times. Plus, as I said, this season does have its moments. The first arc of the Digimon Emperor, for the most part, is really well done. The epic story of the Giga House is not only inventive, but really exciting. I also love the chemistry between Arukenimon and Mummymon. In fact, it seems like their relationship changes over time as well. There's even some mythos building with Azulagmon, as well as the other three Sovereign. The final thing I recommend this series for is Oikawa. There is something about this season and human villains. They are made complex but somehow relatable. Outside of these things, I'd say there's a lot of shoveling to do in order to get to these gold nuggets. Before ending this video, I just want to mention that it may take a while for me to get to reviewing seasons 3 through 6. These videos require a lot of editing, both in the voice and the script, all of which I have to do myself. If I only had to worry about doing the voice work, I could pump out these videos a lot faster. Plus, I have a lot of other projects going on as well. With that, I leave you with my salutation. Until next time, keep having fun.